What's going on, you guys? It's Prepperines here, and welcome back. So, looking into the weather, and it looks like tomorrow is a slight chance of survival with scattered showers of a I freaking told you so. Um, if preparing for the end of the world wasn't hard enough, let's throw in a little bit of domestic terrorism so that we can have something to do while we get there to the big game. Guys, we're going to cover a lot of things today, current events. I don't think I need to really go too much deeper into what that is because I think we all know about it. Anyhow, pop us in, pour up, and let's dig in.
To me like this. He said, most of the world out there is sheep. They're kind, gentle creatures that can only hurt one another by accident. He says, then there are wolves. The wolves will feed on the sheep. They're the sociopaths. They're the criminals. He says, and then there are sheepdogs. The sheep are a little leery of the sheepdog. He wanders around, checks the perimeter every night, barks at the moon. He would never turn his teeth on the flock, but he yearns for a righteous battle. And when the wolf comes around, nothing else will do, and the entire flock is sitting there trying to hide behind one lonely sheepdog as he faces down the wolves. We're talking about a creature who is capable of confronting and dealing with combat and sustaining themselves across the long haul. The goal becomes to be a sheepdog, to be a warrior, to be the one that is ready to respond to the threats when the time arises.
All right, you guys. Well, the thumbnail may have been a slight bit dramatic, but in either case, it sure would seem that things have progressed pretty rapidly throughout the week. And as if that wasn't enough, now we get to deal with an internal conflict, which, lucky enough for me, I'm actually used to that. I have to deal with that shit every morning I wake up. The battle between, do I hit the snooze button or do I just get out of bed now? Yeah. So I'm primed and ready to go for internal conflicts. Bring it on. Not really. Not those ones. Let's dig right in. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of articles here about what has happened over the last couple of days since we talked last. And as always, we're trying to do this in the most peaceful and polite way possible. Because we're not about fear here. We're trying to have a little laugh while we discuss the apocalyptic events that we're all going to face tomorrow in the morning. And we're going to do it with a smile because we're remaining positive because that's what we do. Anyways, let's dig right in with the first article. Let me pull it up here. Oh gosh. Boom. There we go. Oh wait, before we do any of that, whatever you decided to pour up with, I poured up with a little bit of these habanero pickles that my wife made. And guys, this recipe is extremely simple and super addicting. This with a little beer, money, son. There are some things that if I wasn't as crazy as I am, I don't know if my wife would have gotten into. So there's the upside of prepping. Anyways, let's get back to it. All right. FBI warning. Okay. FBI Director Wray warns terror threat to Americans is at a whole other level amid Hamas-Israel conflict. Yeah, gee, you think? Because, like, maybe having an open border where everyone who hates us can come through isn't really a good idea. This is going to be the crux of the Biden administration's biggest mistake, in my mind. But that's just me. And, what does my opinion matter, really? So let's read this. FBI Director Christopher Wray on Tuesday warned that the threat of a terror attack against Americans has been raised to a whole other level due to ongoing conflict in the Middle East. The reality is that terrorism threat has been elevated throughout 2023, but the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised the threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole other level. End quote. Wray told lawmakers on the Senate Homeland Security Committee. So he told them that the ongoing war in the Middle East was the reason that we're all of a sudden at a threat. That was the reason, not the reason that our border's been open for the last 3 years and that 10 million people have crossed it. And the last month alone, 150 special interest immigrants who are like, hey, if we had a deck of cards, your name would be on it. We've been looking for you, and you just happened to cross our border. Not to mention that like multiple people trying to cross our border have been caught with explosives. I mean, I just saw a video the other day that showed, uh, people passing a camera like, yeah, pro Hamas. I mean, so whatever they know, right? Whatever they know and whatever they're saying, there's a lot more to that story that we don't know. But the fact that they're saying it somewhat outright, but in a like very indirect way, to me means we're fucked. I guess I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, you know, that's some comedy for you. Like, are we? I mean, it doesn't seem like that's a very good thing to me. I don't know. All we can do is keep your head on a swivel, stay strapped, or get clapped. If they run up, they get done up, and you guys just need to stay on your P's and Q's. Period. End of story. And like, if now was ever a time to kind of like get rid of that Candy Crush syndrome that most people have with their phones, that relationship, now is the time. You need to be aware of what you're doing and how you exist in your environment everywhere you go. The numbers are outstanding. And I kind of wish now that I would have looked more of that up, but I don't have any articles on that. So let's just continue on. Man drives through gate at Okani nuclear station. Police searching for suspect. I've seen multiple. It just seems like there's multiple run-ins with the police lately. Whether they escape from jail or shoot up a bowling alley or whatever, where the response time is limited and we fail to find these people while they're on the run, and then it ends up into like a massive search, right? So, anyways, this story out of USA Today article published November 3rd, 2023. Authorities in Oconee County, South Carolina, have launched a search operation for a man that they say crashed his car into a security barricade at the Oconee nuclear station Thursday night, just an hour after security asked him to leave. The Oconee County Sheriff's Office responded to a call from a nuclear station around 8 p.m. on November 2nd about a car that rammed into the security barricades at the station, said Sheriff's Office in a news release. Deputies from the Uniform Patrol Bureau said that a white male drove a silver 2002 Toyota Camry through the exit gate on the Highway 183 side of the facility. Guys, unfortunately, I think this is going to be something that is going to become normalized within our society. All this news from abroad that is keeping us busy and keeping our eyes overseas on the developments in Israel and where our ships are at, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to start seeing a lot of uptick and news coming out of the FBI as far as the threats that we're facing from within. We're going to see a huge uptick in that over the next 14 months. And that information I've gotten from a recent article based from like this guy. He's an entrepreneur. He has like a specialization in geo tracking, geolocation, and his study finds that over the next 14 months that we're going to have a huge uptick in domestic terrorism. And it's not a big surprise given the fact that we have this massive problem going on overseas and the stance that we have taken to support Israel. It would only make sense that there are people here, sleeper cells, that's all everyone has been talking about. They're going to try to target Jews specifically. But if you try to break that down, they're going to try to target Jews, of course. And the next article that I was going to read you guys is like they're looking to really affect us, right? Because we are backing up Israel, so they want to take down our water supply and they want to affect our power grid in any way that they can. And you know, if you're a prepper and you've been here for a while, you know that the power grid is susceptible to terrorist attacks or any kind of attack. It's not really reinforced as I would say, right? So knowing that and moving forward, you got to get ready, man. You got to get ready with some backup water. That's like the easiest prep that anyone can go do. Go to the store, go get yourself 3 or 4 cases of water, stock that away, put it under your bed, store it wherever you can. And if you can actually go get some water jugs, they sell them super cheap at Walmart. You can get the 7 gallon, 5 gallon, 3 gallon, and fill those suckers up. You know, get some bleach too, so that you can possibly, you know, maintain that for long-term storage. But that's the first thing that anyone should do, given the FBI warning that they've just come out. It's power grid and water supply. That's the two main targets that they want to hit. Next to, they want to come after Jews, right? So there's going to be potential, I guess, you know, shootings as what probably at mosques is what I would think. And that is unfortunate to say, but all the more reason for you to stay vigilant in the morning. Like, make sure you have your EDC ready to go. Do not get lazy. Keep that thing on you. Do a systems check on it every single day. Maintain your firearm. And it's not just your firearm. Like, make sure you have a tourniquet on you, first aid, IFAC, something like that for a mass casualty scenario, because it may not be, you know, you save the day type of scenario. It may be just you rendering care to somebody else. So stay on your P's and Q's, guys, because they're talking about, the FBI is talking about, you know, there being internal attacks here. And we have an entrepreneur also talking about his studies finding that over the next 14 months that's going to be our life. That's how the war comes here right now. So that's 2024. Let's keep moving on to the next article. Migrants with bombs caught on U.S. southern border. Let me find the article. Okay, so Washington, U.S. Senator John Barrasso said on Tuesday that the Border Patrol agents recently caught migrants coming through the U.S.-Mexico border with explosive devices the size of cannonballs. Here's his quote. "We have just returned from our southern border, and it is painfully clear that Joe Biden's open border policy, our country is really at an increased threat of a terrorist attack," Barrasso said during a press conference. Quote, "A couple of days before we got there, alert border agents were able to seize immigrants carrying with them IEDs, explosive devices really tailor-made for terrorism. They were the size of cannonballs." According to lawmakers in the fiscal year of 2023 alone, 169 migrants on the FBI terrorism watch list were apprehended along the U.S. southern border. So not only do we have a warning, we have actual proof that these people are coming through And it's not, I mean, for the average immigrant American, you're going to think that these are just, I mean, it's just Mexicans coming over that, like, they want a better life and they want to work. No, people are coming here that hate us and they hate the West and they want to see it end. And they have plans. Like, this is the way they were brought up from since they were children. They want to end us. They don't like us. And they're going to do everything that they can because they are on their own personal jihad to end the West and to, cut the head off the infidel. And that's not only us, but it's our allies that we're backing right now. So we are at probably, I mean, not probably, we are most definitely at the highest level of threat that we have ever been at since 9/11. 9/11, it only took 12 guys to take down two towers. Or so the story goes, right? Um, yeah, we'll just leave that there. But there are 10 million people that we know have crossed the border, and they come from every single country around the world. And with that, too, we also know that there's a large portion of them that are coming from every single country in the area that we are right now in a huge conflict with. They're here. There's just the other day a guy arrested with plans to kill Jews and have planned out premeditated terrorism attacks. This is going to be a every part. I guess to me, I think about it, and it's like, what is that movie? It's like Men Without Children, or remember the movie? It's basically it's is it Children Without Men? I can't remember the name of it. I'm having a mental blank, but they live in this futuristic world where everyone's infertile and there's like just terrorism attacks going around all around them, and there's war going on too, and that's like their everyday life, you know. And there's also, you could tell by the way, Children of Men, that's the movie, Children of Men. And they're in this like not quite post-apocalyptic type of world, but they're in this like pre or like ongoing, with massive amounts of war and terrorism attacks. Dude's getting his coffee in the morning, comes out, takes a sip, the whole coffee shop explodes, and everyone inside is killed because of a suicide bomber. Now, whether it gets to that level or not, it, it right now it seems unlikely. But those type of events are going to be more and more normalized, is what the FBI is saying to us right now. And it's not even hard to imagine, because we know that we are open to a threat at the southern border. You know, we know that we're backing an ally abroad where there's a large number of Muslims that live in our allies' countries too, which puts them in a precarious position as well as far as what they do. I mean, I don't really want to get into that right now because that's a whole different subject. But I did touch on it in my last live, where I was like, those countries are now put in this precarious position of whether they back us up or not. If they decide to, which they should do, being our ally, they're putting their whole populace at risk because there's going to be protests and riots. And that's another thing that I think we can get used to seeing all around the world. Now, the only way in my mind that this whole thing can kind of slow down is, Biden's calling for this humanitarian pause, quote unquote. And right now, I think we could probably use that. Like, hey, let's just pause. Let's help out some wounded people that were, you know, injured or whatever, accidentally by the conflict going on over there. And it's sad to see those sites too. Like, a lot of them are children or whatever. But as we know, Hamas hides behind women and children because those are their tactics. They're real strong men. Anyhow, if we did take a pause, I think it would be great. for just letting things kind of settling down and taking a secondary look at the situation, because no human being can be rational while they're furious, right? That's one of our huge flaws. But that's just me. What do I know? Whatever. Um, let's move on to the whole Iran thing. So recently, we just passed a bill through the House. It's like 351 to 49 in favor of taking all means necessary to stop Iran and their nuclear prowess. For whatever reason, the United States has been interested in a very long time into not letting Iran have nuclear weapons. Now, as of right now, we don't know if they have nuclear weapons already, but we definitely want to stop any possibility of production within the country. And there's already like a multitude of videos online of underground bunkers, like massive underground bunkers, by the way, of their missile silos and military storage. So to me, it would appear that they more than likely probably already have one. Um, and whether or not that's come from production or from somewhere else, who knows? But that's the way that the United States is going right now. We're trying to shut down the production of any nukes inside of Iran. In a lot of ways, this is going to appear like um, a declaration of war, right? I mean, put yourself in the Muslim or the Islamic world's shoes. They're looking at us already like we're the world police, and they're fed up with our shit. They're going to take this as a declaration of war. In my mind, that's what I would think. So let's get into the articles about that, because they're super fun and lighthearted. Is it this one? Nope. It's this one right here. All right. So majority of House members call for increased measures to stop Iranian nuclear weapons. Let me find the article. So this is out of the Jewish Insider. And the United States must increase its efforts to prevent Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons capability, the letter reads. So a picture taken November 10th, 2019 shows an Iranian flag in Iran's Bashur nuclear power plant during an official ceremony official ceremony to kickstart works on a second reactor at the facility. Yeah, they're making them. They're making them over there. The date of this article is June 26, 2023. So more than half of the House, 249 lawmakers, including 110 Democrats and 139 Republicans, joined a letter urging President Joe Biden to take additional steps to prevent Iran's nuclear program and prepare to seek the reimposition of United Nations sanctions on Iran. While the letter sent on Friday and obtained by the Jewish Insider makes no mention of negotiations or potential settlements with Iran, it represents the largest unified call for stronger steps against Iran's nuclear program among House Democrats since Biden took office. So this has been going on since June, right? I mean, I'm sure our NSA, CIA friends, three-letter agencies have been seeing this threat coming from a mile away, or one would hope. And now things that are kicking off overseas, we're really making an outward effort to the world and everybody that we will stop at no means, is the words that they've used. We will stop at no means to make sure that Iran will not have a nuclear production of any means, right? That right there, dude, listen to the words. We will stop at nothing. I mean, that is a full declaration of war. And the funny part is, too, is that's just the House bill. It still has to go to the Senate, and then it still has to get passed by Joe Biden. My favorite part of it is that we're taking the money instead of printing it out of thin air. We're taking that money from the dirty IRS and their $87 million bonus package to arm up and come and tax the hell out of us. I'm all for it. But at the same time, even without it passing through each stage, it's already a declaration of war to the world on Iran. So what happens from here, whether it passes, reformulates, gets changed, we've already sent a clear message to the rest of the world of like what our endeavors are to do. The next, it's not really an article, but we're going to go back to the Obama years, and I'm going to share this video with you. And I want you to listen to some like key words that he says, right? He used words like strength and power and how we posture to the rest of the world. Even while Obama was in office, there's been a significant change in the way that this country has been running, right? Everyone is aware of it. I would think, maybe not everybody. Some people that, still support Joe Biden and think that he's the most amazing president ever might not agree with me. But in my mind, you can even see that the way that this man operates, and I'm not an Obama fan by any means, but he was sending clear messages even in 2016. So let's move on to this.
Good morning. This is a good day because once again, we're seeing what's possible with strong American diplomacy. As I said in my State of the Union address, ensuring the security of the United States and the safety of our people demands a smart, patient, and disciplined approach to the world. That includes our diplomacy with the Islamic Republic of Iran. For decades, our differences with Iran meant that our governments almost never spoke to each other. Ultimately, that did not advance America's interests. Over the years, Iran moved closer and closer to having the ability to build a nuclear weapon. But from Presidents Franklin Roosevelt to John F. Kennedy to Ronald Reagan, the United States has never been afraid to pursue diplomacy with our adversaries. And as president, I decided that a strong, confident America could advance our national security by engaging directly with the Iranian government. We've seen the results. Under the nuclear deal that we, our allies and partners, reached with Iran last year, Iran will not get its hands on a nuclear bomb. The region, the United States, and the world will be more secure. As I've said many times, the nuclear deal was never intended to resolve all of our differences with Iran, but still, engaging directly with the Iranian government on a sustained basis for the first time in decades has created a unique opportunity, a window to try to resolve important issues. And today I can report progress on a number of fronts. First, yesterday marked a milestone in preventing Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon. Iran has now fulfilled key commitments under the nuclear deal. And I want to take a moment to explain why this is so important. Over more than a decade, Iran had moved ahead with its nuclear program, and before the deal, it had installed nearly 20,000 centrifuges that could enrich uranium for a nuclear bomb. Today, Iran has removed 2/3 of those machines. Before the deal, Iran was steadily increasing its stockpile of enriched uranium, enough for up to 10 nuclear bombs. Today, more than 98% of that stockpile has been shipped out of Iran, meaning Iran now doesn't have enough material for even one bomb. Before, Iran was nearing completion of a new reactor capable of producing plutonium for a bomb. Today, the core of that reactor has been pulled out and filled with concrete, so it cannot be used again. Before the deal, the world had relatively little visibility into Iran's nuclear program. Today, international inspectors are on the ground, and Iran is being subjected to the most comprehensive, intrusive inspection regime ever negotiated to monitor.
All right. Pause that guy. So obviously, that was all a bunch of B freaking S, whether it was on the president's side at the time or whether it was Iran, just playing games at the time. And then eventually we've gotten to where we're at now. They either have a nuke already or they are still planning to make one, and they've been planning all the while. You don't just do that overnight. Like, they're preppers too, right? Except their prepper mindset is to kill the West. Now more than ever. So let's go to here. All right. So House passes Hamas sanctions bill. Iran resolutions in by wide bipartisan margins. Let me find the article. So the House voted for new sanctions on Hamas international backers and a policy of opposing Iran's nuclear program by any means necessary, but rejected an effort to censor Rashida Tlaib, who I believe is she's one of the few people in the House that fly a Palestinian flag out in front of her office. And honestly, like, I don't have anything against the Palestinians. Going back in history and kind of like understanding this conflict that's been going on forever, they see the Jews as an occupier. And so it helps to understand their point of view here. But I also see this as an outward aggression towards Jews, that they murdered them in cold blood, decapitated babies' heads, and burnt people alive without warning. So, people are arguing right now that they're not terrorists because they're actually just freedom fighters. And I'm having a hard time keeping an open mind to that. I just don't see it. Anyways, Rashida Tlaib recently just had a protest where she's promoting Gaza, Hamas, Palestinians, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling for her to be censured. Anyhow, let's proceed with this article. The House of Representatives voted last night by wide bipartisan margins in favor of new sanctions on Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and other Palestinian terrorist groups, and non-binding resolution opposing Iran's nuclear program. But it defeated in a bipartisan vote an effort to censure Representative Rashida Tlaib, Democrat from Michigan, Minnesota. Am I? Not sure. The Hamas International Financing Prevention Act, the sanctions bill, passed the House by a 363 to 46 vote. Most of the 45 no votes came from progressive Democrats, and Representative Thomas Massie, Republican of Kentucky, was the only Republican to vote no. The bill would place new sanctions on individuals, entities, and foreign governments that provide support to Palestinian terror groups. Critics had expressed concerns about the provisions in the bill that would require specific presidential waivers to allow any humanitarian aid to move into Gaza and the West Bank. The bill, as originally introduced, had blanket sanctions exemption for humanitarian aid that did not require individual waivers. So, I mean, this thing is getting ugly on a lot of different fronts because obviously the Palestinian people are, casualties of war. They're collateral damage in any war. You're going to have that. I think we're kind of moving in this direction where this is becoming there's this large front where normally you're going to have casualties in war, right? Why didn't this issue come up during the Ukraine and Russia war, right? Like, to this extent. And in my mind, I can only think that well, I'm alluding to the fact that religion is a huge facet of this war. It is largely a holy war. So the whole humanitarian side comes into it, and religion comes into it too. And it's based with two factions of people where this story goes back thousands of years. And this becomes biblical, right? This is literally fulfilling biblical prophecies on so many different levels. And I wish I could speak more to that, but I'm honestly just learning it kind of as I go. Like I was brought up Catholic, read the scripture as a kid, and kind of just wasn't interested and dismissed it. And now I'm having to go back in my memory and actually look these things up for how it actually relates to what's in the Bible. And it is truly biblical. But the stage of this war compared to, October 7th, the way that the media was producing it was that, this was like a horrible attack. They attacked them while they weren't ready, blah, 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 blah. And then more news came out later on that, it's highly suspect that how could Israel not be aware that a attack like this was coming? And I find some things to be a little interesting with this too. So a week before the attack on Gaza, all of a sudden we started accepting all these flights in from Israel, right? And we're not talking like about people that are just here for, stay a couple months, get a little visa, hang out 6 months, vacation, see you later. We're talking like we're like bringing people in to stay. And then even if you look at the October 4th presidential alert that went on, the presidential alert system is a doomsday system. It is not like an EBS, like, hey, you have a tornado coming your way. This is like shit is bad type of system. That goes out to everyone October 4th. 3 days later, we have Hamas attack Israel. And now, sitting in November, we have multiple Islamic factions, call them freedom fighters, call them terrorists, call them whatever you want, who are all hopping in on this war, who are backed and being armed by our enemies, as it were, Russia and China, right? Things have escalated so quickly within the last 30 days that it's hard for me to be comedic about all this stuff. So, pardon me for sucking in that area. But things are moving quickly, folks. And, whether it's threats from abroad and how it affects our world, whether it's economics, supply chain, or whatever, if there was ever time to get ready, it is right freaking now. You guys need to get ready right now. Stock up food, stock up water, have a contingency plan if the power goes out, and talk to your family members about how you are going to meet up with them if something like this happens at work, which also means that in your vehicle, you probably need to have a get home bag. Everyone's like super hot about the bug out bag or whatever. You need to get freaking home. That is your primary objective. That is my primary objective, is to get home to my family in a scenario where we have a terrorist attack and everyone's freaking out, and I can still drive my vehicle, or I can't. You're going to need that backpack in your car. It's going to need to have food. It's going to need to have water, probably an extra change of clothes for climate conditions that are in your area that you might face. You need to get, your primary objective is to get home to your family if chaos was to erupt. And you guys should have this anyways. because if you look at last winter, multiple people died in their vehicles by being stranded on the side of the road. You know, have a way to get out of your vehicle, and then when you get out, have a way to get to where you need to go to safety. Right? Those are basics. Those are basic essentials that you need to have. Anyways, let's keep moving on. On the Iran side, U.S. House easily passes bill to harden sanctions on Iranian oil. So this kind of brings me into my next phase of this live, and this is probably going to be a long one, guys. Trying to cover a couple different things that where my mind's at right now. Um, what I'm looking at. I'm going to read this article to you, and then we'll kind of go into my thoughts. So this is from Reuters. Date is November 3rd, 2023. So Washington, November 3rd, the U.S. House of Representatives easily passed a bill on Friday to bolster sanctions on Iranian oil in a strong bipartisan vote. The Stop Harboring Iranian Petroleum SHIP bill, which passed 342 to 69, would impose measures on foreign imports and refineries that process petroleum exported from Iran in violations of U.S. sanctions. U.S. lawmakers are debating several pieces of legislation to pressure Iran after the October 7th attacks on Israel by Hamas that killed at least 1,400 people, mostly civilians. The funny thing with that is everyone in Israel is IDF. They were all trained. They're all technically soldiers, if you think about it. But yeah, in that right, they weren't ready for it, so they were in a civilian stance. Hamas has long been backed by Iran, but Tehran has denied any involvement in the attacks. Right away, my mind goes to if this thing starts to escalate. Think about now the Saudis right now are staying out of this for now, right? But my mind immediately goes to this point where if the Saudis are either suckered into this somehow or have to get involved or willingly get involved, any involvement, and they cut us off from oil, that paired alongside with China just made its first transaction with Russia for oil, for petroleum. I'm speaking to you as if you know. So I'm going to assume that you kind of know what's going on. So the petrodollar is the dollar of the world, right? It is America. If you want to buy some oil, your country has to buy it in American dollars. Every time those American dollars are spent to buy oil, that's a check for us to send to the Fed to print the money because we can get it. We can get it out of the bank because someone else just paid for oil in American dollars. That's the most basic way I can explain the way the petrodollar works. The BRIC system that these countries are developing, and it's Russia, China, and a bunch of other countries. If they decide to move forward with that, and they are, and they knock us off of our petrodollar status, this whole American system comes crashing down. The debt that we're going to see here, the fiat currency that we are working under is going to completely crash. Your dollars are going to be teepee to wipe your ass with, pretty much. So there's that. There's that to look forward to. On a secondary note, if we get cut off, we're going to have to spin up production over here. And because where we're at environmentally, trying to be, super green or whatever, I don't think right now, and I'm speaking from kind of a ignorance point, I do not believe that we are in a point right now where we could just spin up production like that to supply the American people with everything that we would need to maintain our daily lives. So we would probably see lockdowns. We would probably see the implementation of these 15-minute cities that people have talked about. For me, I commute very far from my work. I don't know how that would all work out for me. there would be rationing for sure. In World War II, you saw rationing across almost all products. Um, the implementation of rationing, even if we didn't get cut off, I think would probably still be in place. But if we do get cut off and the Saudis get involved and we get knocked off the petrodollar status, the Americans here in this country are going to suffer greatly. Our economy is going to, it's going to be a simultaneous windfall of it. It's going to be a shitstorm, pretty much. Secondarily to that, if China cuts us off, right? All of our auto manufacturing parts come from China. A lot of our medicines come from China. So right now, what I'm doing, I'm forecasting the future out because that's what I do. I'm a prepper. I'm trying to look at the statistic of like, well, all these things are possible. To what level are they actually going to happen? And so medicines for me right now, children's medicines, because I have kids, are super important. So I'm going to the store to get those, knowing that we could face a power grid attack from inside. Hey, get that generator cleaned out, fired up, get some backup gas, get some fuel stabilizer, have a safe storage for the gasoline as well. Because more than likely you don't have an actual, slip tank that's made for that. Maybe you do. I don't. So we have to forecast all these things that could happen now because when chaos erupts, there will not be time to go to the store to go get this stuff. It's not going to exist, man. You got to do all this stuff now. And it's based off, looking into these articles and deciphering what could happen, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm passing along the information to you. Hopefully, you take some of it and utilize it. Let's keep moving on. All right. Is the Israel Gaza war changing U.S. public attitudes? This article I find pretty interesting just from the fact that we have, gone from October 7th to basically, turnkey or not turnkey, but turncoating around to being like, everyone was like, getting ready to post stand with Israel next to their Facebook profile picture to now that somehow Israel is like the terrorist. And I find that this seems to be a psyop being played out on the American people to further divide us, is what I think in my mind. I'll read a little bit of this. The Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th, 2023, and the ensuing Israeli attacks in Gaza have captured global attention. How has the war affected American public attitudes toward the Israeli-Palestine issue broadly? To probe the issue, the University of Maryland Critical Issues poll with Ipsos asked several questions focused on the role of the United States and the perception of the Biden administration. The poll did not directly ask about the attitudes toward the war itself, but probed any shifts in public attitudes on the Israeli-Palestinian issue broadly. It was fielded October 20th to the 22nd among 1,021 respondents using Ipsos probability-based knowledge panel with a margin of error of 3.3%. So it seems like that's some type of polling algorithm. It's been over 3 weeks since Hamas attacked, but the poll was conducted at the end of the second week of the war. It is noteworthy that after the Hamas attack, there was unanimous official U.S. sympathy with and support for Israel, expressed loudly by the White House and Congress. Institutional statements of sympathy for Israel and condemnation of the attack were also evident across the American society, including even illustratively moments of silence held at the start of National Football League games. I was not aware that it actually was implemented at NFL games. I watched this really interesting thing on Ben Shapiro the other day, where it's basically this guy going around petitioning for support for Hamas. And he's walking up to random people in the street and he's like, hey, I have this petition to support Hamas. Will you sign it? And automatically the people are like, yeah, let me sign that. And he's like, okay, I just gotta read through some of the stipulations of the document before you sign. They're like, yeah, go ahead. So they're holding the clipboard, getting ready to sign it. And he's like, so by signing this, you support that homosexuals have no right to be outwardly homosexual, and you're supporting the right that women should have no rights and need to get permission from a male to do pretty much anything and need to be in full head to toe covered gear. And they're like, well, no, I don't support that. And then he goes on to say, and you support the fact that they want to cut the heads off all the infidels and take over the West, which is us. No, I don't believe in that. So it's like these people don't even know exactly what they are signing, but they are so pro Hamas in the beginning that they're not even really aware of what Hamas stands for. They're only like, they're useful idiots pretty much. They're being swayed to one side because these people are brought up on whoever's being oppressed is obviously the good guy. Whoever is the oppressor is obviously the bad guy. And that is just so American, man. That is like American ignorance all the way. But specifically, that is like the woke ideology in full play, in my mind. Could be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. Let's keep going on. So, who are Iran's allies? Oh, crap. I just deleted that one. We're going to have to move on to the next one. So, Israelis' allies shift away from unconditional support. All right, so U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's push for a pause in Israel's assault on Gaza has highlighted how allies are pivoting from unconditional support from Israeli self-defense to a focus on humanitarian crisis in the Palestinian territory. In the weeks following October 7th attack by Gaza-based Hamas militants who killed 1,400 Israelis, many civilians, Israelis' allies have largely avoided urging restraint in its military response. Over the past 10 days, amid soaring numbers of civilian casualties and brutal imagery of Israelis' air and ground assault on Gaza, a significant shift in tone and rhetoric has occurred, with Western allies calling for pauses in the conflict in order to help protect the enclave's non-combatants and free hostage held by terrorist groups. Yeah. So we're seeing this huge shift right now. And we've been seeing this huge shift probably since, and it's in mainstream media. It's been since the week since all this stuff first kicked off. At first, it was like, yeah, tell me what to do, tell me who to stand with. I stand with Israel. To wait a second, let's resort back to these Marxist ideologies of the oppressor and the oppressed, and whoever has the power must be bad, and whoever's oppressed must be evil. When you find out that Hamas, and you're this woke leftist, when you find out that, they hate queers, they don't stand for women's rights, they want to end the West, and they also want to deceive and fool anyone who is the infidel to get them on their side. Oh, when you bring up those facts, then those people won't sign those petitions I was just talking about, right? So this shift has occurred because of the downfall in our society for how our youth is being brought up right now. That's how it exists in our country alone, in my mind. On a larger scale, I think that, when Israel hit refugee camps, if they were in fact refugee camps, like the first casualty of war is the truth, guys. So Like anything you're seeing on the news right now, any of these articles I'm reading could be complete BS. We don't actually know. Um, but there's some level to truth to any of them. And at the same time, there's also a bunch of lies spread all through that. So you kind of have to stand on your own ground and figure out what your values are to make an informed decision. But you can't take an article and accept it as complete truth because it's like mainstream media. It's just not. It's not 100% true. Let's keep going. So Turkey is the next article. I wanted to talk about Turkey because they're a member of NATO and they're also being a member of NATO, they are one of our allies. We have a huge military base in NATO, and something interesting that I thought was important to bring up here was, once his name is like not easy to say, but Erdogan or Erdogan or whatever his name is, they are not backing Israel, right? We have a huge military installation in Turkey, and as far as I know, we have some nukes over there that we've stored. As soon as Erdogan came out and said, "Hey, we are not going to stand with Israel," the flight trackers showed two B-52s fly over there, and this was a planned endeavor, according to the United States military. And what do you think they were there to do? Probably pick up our nukes. And I'm wondering right now, if you're a soldier on that base, like, what the hell else is going on? Are you packing up anything else, getting ready to leave? This is huge. So let's get into this article. All right. So Erdogan says Israel completely out of its mind. In war with Hamas must be stopped. Let's read it here. Turkish president claims Jewish state will face justice over what he says are war crimes committed in Gaza, as he continues to avoid condemning Hamas for the October 7th atrocities. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said Tuesday that Israel was completely out of its mind, accusing it of crimes against humanity over its ongoing war against the Hamas terror group. Erdogan vowed to bring Jerusalem to justice over crimes committed in the Gaza Strip and accused the United States and Europe of being complicit in them, while making no mention of Hamas's deadly onslaught on October 7th. So, I mean, this is quoted November 4th, 2023, the Times of Israel. So this is obviously, their view on everything. I find it interesting, to be completely honest. Like, where was the humanitarian talk when the whole Ukraine-Russia conflict kicked off? Where was that talk then? Where was the talk that Putin was completely out of his mind by these people? The difference is here that this is a religious war, and it's also a holy war, and it's a war over land that's been going on since the beginning of time, as far as recorded history, as far as we know. So once you enter into that facet of this, it changes the game completely. It makes no sense to me, to be completely honest, how things are so upside down right now. Let's move on to Jewish people and what they're doing here in the United States. So, as far as largely the way it's perceived, at least, most Jewish people are perceived to be, progressives, which are, liberals, Democrats. And I think we're seeing a shift in everyone's take right now because of what the administration is doing. It almost seems that the Biden administration, no matter what they do, they're going to piss off somebody, right? A lot of their supporters are, it would seem, are pro-Palestinian, pro-Gaza in this war right now because it's a humanitarian crisis. And if we back up Israel and stand with Israel 100% to the end, then we are just, pushing more unneeded murder on civilians. I feel like the Jews here in the United States are probably questioning the party that they voted for. And, the conservatives being largely rural folk, right? I mean, that's the way that you usually see the maps drawn out. I feel like, also conservatives love their guns and their freedoms and stuff. We're seeing a shift. And let me show you this article here. So, Jewish Americans arm themselves in wake of Israeli horror. So this is from thereload.com, posted October 20th, 2023. There's another order coming from Hamas to kill Jews. I happen to be Jewish and I don't want to be killed. That's the succinct explanation of Joshua, a doctor in Los Angeles, gave for why he decided to buy his first gun this week. He's far from alone. New owners and trainers alike describe the scenes of gun stores and safety classes full of Jewish Americans hoping to protect themselves from the kind of slaughter that played out on October 7th when Hamas terrorists streamed over the border into Israel and ruthlessly killed more than 1,400 men, women, and children. So he goes on to say, I was at a local gun store a couple of days ago where my wife was doing her firearms training test, and it was full. Joshua, who, like several others who spoke to the Reload for this story, did not want his real name revealed, in large part due to safety concerns. He said, there was a line outside to get in for people to do their tests or buy firearms or practice on the range, and I would say it was 90% Jewish people and Israelis. So right now, with the separation here in the United States of people that are pro-Hamas and label them as freedom fighters, or people that are pro-Israeli, the Biden administration right now is we stand with Israel, but they're also asking them at the same time to, like, first off, they were like, delay the ground invasion because we need to get our people out. Now they're asking for a humanitarian pause. I feel like they're trying to be like this double agent. At the same time, I feel like they're also trying to just calm the situation down, which I feel like we need to calm that sucker down too. Just like, let's calm down for a little bit, come back to the table. But when you have active Israeli forces engaged in the tunnels, engaging Hamas, and both sides are killing each other, it's just more fuel for the fire. We are kind of past that. It's not going to happen. The whole workup and massive mobilization of battle groups and deployments overseas would point to the fact that this thing is going to go full freaking hot, especially when we have all these other factions, the Houthi rebels, Yemen, Syria, all these other people jumping in, Turkey, right? So I don't know if a pause would actually even really do anything, to be completely honest. Things have kind of progressed too far. All right, almost done here. I want to talk about rationing back in World War II. This kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier in this broadcast of, any world war, there's rationing. That's what we can expect to see. But right now, being funded, with our oil and gas being abroad from the Saudis, and a lot of our products coming in from China, them two being friends, if we get cut off, it's not going to be rationing. It's not there. But on the good side, if it is just rationing, here's an article just to read from you. This is from Oregon's Secretary of State. Rationing, a necessary but hated sacrifice. Do they want this system to become a useless farce? As if overseeing price controls weren't enough of a job, the Federal Office of Price Administration also presided over the bigger job of rationing. The OPA set up complicit rules for rationing, everything from beef to bubblegum, and from sugar to shoes. In the process, the office became everyone's favorite wartime scapegoat, while black markets flourished. Despite the complexity and grumbling, most Americans grudgingly admitted rationing was a necessary part of the war effort. So, I think it's highly likely that we're going to see that here at some point. I mean, we saw it even not too far ago with the pandemic. You can have two of this, one of that, even getting ammo, 2 box maximum. That's something that's probably going to come back here in the work up to this war before it's like a full scale, whatever. We're going to see rationing take place. That kills the prepper. That is what kills the prepper when you have rationing, right? In a sense, right? Because if you're a true prepper, you're getting a little bit at a time. Everyone likes to blame the prepper as being the hoarder. The hoarder is actually the person who hasn't prepared at all and tries to go buy 20 packages of TP, right? They're the people that actually cause the problem. But it does largely kill that prepping mentality when you can only get 2. So I would say right now, while times are still good and you can buy 3 or 4 of something, you should go get 3 or 4 of the things that you think that you need. Because pretty soon here, we're going to be in a time where there are going to be limits put on what we can buy. And shortly after that, after the chaos erupts, just like the pandemic, the store shelves are going to be wiped out before those processes are implemented. So before that time comes, taking this broadcast seriously, knowing that we have a threat matrix to try to forecast like what is going to happen. Cover your most fundamental bases: food, long term storage of food. Get Mylar bags, get oxygen absorbers, so that you can buy bulk stuff from Costco or whatever, put it into bags and store it long term. Then move into your canned goods, get that stuff. Look at food, water too, as well as like bottled water, or for me, we have like a water cooler here, so I can go buy 5-gallon jugs of water. That's what I do. There's also Walmart sells 7-gallon jugs of water storage containers that are stackable that you can buy those. Cover all of your bases while you can now, because you may not get the opportunity to do that here in the future. Next, I would say medical. So I even remember as far back as probably maybe a year and a half ago, just going to the store to go get children's Tylenol, Benadryl, or Motrin. I could not find it. And I'm glad that I stored the hell out of it pre-pandemic, and it lasted us to the date that I just referenced. So your basic medicines for your family: aspirin, ibuprofen, all the first aid kit essentials, obviously, which you should already have on hand. Go get that stuff too. Those are my 3 biggest ones. After that, fuel is not an easy one to store. Water's not very easy to store. You need a massive amount of water to keep your family running. That's 3 gallons per person per day. And if you live like me, I don't live in a mansion. I don't have a whole lot of space to store that stuff. So storing it becomes an issue. But cover those 3 bases. Go get some batteries as well. Um, and I guess the final thing that I would look into getting to is probably the Jace case from Jace Medical. So a lot of our antibiotics come from overseas. Um, and I think last time I bought it was about $200 or so. Comes with 5 different life-saving antibiotics, and you can kind of pick and choose and make your own little pack there. Unless you're going to Mexico anytime soon, that's your best route for getting some life-saving medication that you might need if our supply chain was to get shut down and you get an infection of some type. So those are my 5 tips right there for what you guys need to do right now. Finally, the last article I'm going to show here is Ford, and I believe it's the 3 other major automakers. So we're talking, what is it, GMC, Ford, Chevy, and whoever the other one is, shutting down production of all EV vehicles. So on one side, I mean, I guess on the only side, to me, that means, do they know something that we don't know? Like, their suppliers are obviously from China. And is China limiting the amount of either these essential minerals to make these batteries to come over here? Or are they potentially forecasting, knowing that that's going to be what happens because of the way the lines are drawn on the I don't know if you call it the axis of evil, but the allies that are drawn together. We know that China is not friends with us right now. They're friends with the Russians. So are they forecasting just shutting all that down because they know something from their supplier, because they can forecast both maybe? I feel like this is the before time where, you can still go to the store and still find everything that you need. Whether it's the grocery store, the auto store, or the ammo store, you can still go find everything that you need there right now, because there's a backstock of supply at the distribution centers that those are still stocked up. Now, fast forward 3 months from now, what do you think the distribution center is going to look like? I don't know. But it's probably high time to start thinking about if it's empty now. Or even if it's not empty, think about a terroristic attack that takes place on our soil where it causes massive chaos and panic and everyone goes to the store like they did during the pandemic. That already proved to us that our supply chain could not handle chaos and panic. So go get what you think you need to get now. Moving into winter too, that is a horrible scenario to be in too. If our energy grid gets taken down, how are you going to heat your home? How are you going to keep your pipes from freezing? Right? So start thinking about all that stuff now, guys. Anyways, I've kept you here for at least an hour. Thanks for stopping in. This is your host, Prepperines, and I hope you enjoyed your time. We'll talk again soon. See ya.